Welcome to the Free and Open Mind Vcast. I am Hardy Brooklyn.
I'm Michelle Wild.
Where who are you?
And what is your true passion? So the first part of this particular episode, we were talking about changing just your aesthetics and having to really change every aspect of yourself. The inside, how you view things, how people view you, and changing the outside as well and the inside. By going to therapy was basically...
It doesn't have to be therapy. And one of the things I'm going to highlight is that we've got two sponsors coming on board in the next couple of weeks that we've been working with that are going to help us change our aesthetics as well as our thought process, because we've been told we've gotten a lot better in the banter and how we play off of each other and work together and that kind of production quality. But we have got Flow Juggle, a small Brooklyn-owned business of awesome light-up, juggly, LED, fire stuff, and ROI resumes that have basically come together to help sponsor us, to give us the ability to bring somebody on that's actually going to edit this stuff for us.
Yay!
So it's not like what you see is what you get. We're going to have maybe some commercial in the beginning and give our sponsors real credit, so you don't have to go, who is Flow Juggle? How do I find them? Or what's ROI resumes? And that'll be in the show notes when we get around to it. Not holding my breath on that. But again, that's the next step, is the progress of this project is not necessarily to put money in our pockets, but to create amazing people around us that are artists and creatives that can help bring this information and get this out there to the public, because people need to hear this. I mean, I know there's a lot of other people that are talking about it, but there's a different kinds of podcasts and different kinds of environments that people learn in different ways.
Yes, agreed.
And we're going to reach a different audience than everybody else, because we're two different people than the other two people. I mean, there are podcasts that I love that talk about the exact same things that I'm talking about, but they just don't resonate with me. And there are some that really resonate with me, and I listen to them as soon as they come out. And I give to the Patreon, and I'm a donator, and I'm a member. Because it's not about putting the money in my pocket. It's about, we've made a decision to use change to help better the community by helping these other people now during a pandemic that might not have as much work. I mean, I know it's not a lot of money, but we're doing what we can. And we're asking you to support local businesses, to go out there and do what you can to affect a positive change in your life.
Right. So we were talking about a friend of mine that's transitioning from a man to a woman. And that is a change that she's consciously made herself. So what happens, and especially in this day and age because of the pandemic, a change is forced upon you. Like, we're going to talk about teachers, and teachers having to teach remotely, or they have to go to school. So their whole, the way they used to teach, and the school lessons and everything that they used to do every summer to prepare themselves for the first school, the school year, has completely, utterly changed, and some of them are not taking it well.
And that's really important. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're a dog walker, everybody was affected dramatically by this pandemic. And they have had major changes impacting their lives that they are not used to, they are not prepared for. A lot of people don't want them and are resisting. I don't think there's going to ever be a time in New York City that we don't go back to wearing masks. I think that masks are going to become a mainstay. That if you're on the subway and you've got a cold and you've got the sniffles, you better be wearing a mask, or people are going to out you, or don't sneeze or cough. That's what keep it in your bag, keep it with you, because it's about being good citizens.
Right. So like I was saying, the teachers. So how do you, on a couple different levels? One, first, how do you get past the anger of being angry that something is, your whole entire, the way you've done things has completely changed, of no force of your own, no doing of your own, and you're frustrated and you're angry because there's nobody you can talk to, and there's nothing that can be done because it has to change. So how do you deal with that first aspect of it, get past that big, huge hump?
So what I've told the teachers that I've been talking to, and the people that are in the educational world, they're not teachers, they're support workers, guidance counselors, therapists, office workers, and it's all the same. It's, you have to decide for your true self is, are you okay with the change that's happening, or are you not okay with change?
So what is okay? So what if you're not okay with it, but you have to do it? So now what?
One of them is you have to think about is, what is a consequence of me doing it and not doing it. So I have friends that are teachers that have basically been told that they should expect to go back to classroom teaching with students in the class.
Right.
And they're of the high risk category.
Right.
Now, they have to make a decision is that best for me? Or is that because some fucking politician said, we botched the response, we don't want to be responsible for cleaning this up.
Right.
Why don't you go risk your life? And that's really what they're asking. And not only risk your life, but potentially everybody around you.
Yeah.
I've had friends in the past couple of weeks that have not social distanced and gone to events and become carriers of COVID.
Yeah.
And gotten their own parents sick and died.
Yeah.
So we have to think about it now from who we really are. And when we're going through this change, all this mental stuff is am I okay with the change? Am I okay with the direction the change is going? And am I okay with the passion and compassion that I'm going to have to give to myself when I go through this learning process to be able to fully and truly support the change and make it effective?
Right.
These people that are teachers, what am I telling them? I'm telling them you have to decide how you're going to work. You're going to have to decide if you're going to stay with Blackboard or stay with whatever constraints you have, or are you going to think creatively? Like maybe you hold a class at the beach where it's super windy,
right.
and people are not really going. And if everybody has masks, and you kind of enforce that. I mean, there are options to get the kids out there in the city.
Okay. So, but what happens if like you are a Zoom, like you have to do Zoom now? I mean, and you're not a big fan of Zoom, like myself, and you have to do online teaching. So you're saying, like, what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, you have to decide if you're okay or not okay with it. If you're not okay with it, then maybe you need to, you know, twist it up a little bit so you can make it more fun for yourself. That it's not just, you know, it's not just straightforward. Here, you're changing like this and this is it.
So how do we look at that? How do we look at going from somebody who is, most teachers are incredibly passionate about their profession, or they would not be that, and they feed, they get their energy off of the children in the room. That's the positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, whatever that is they're getting, is what's keeping them sustained and alive. And now we're taking that interpersonal contact and saying, this is not safe to you, it's not safe to the children, and it's not safe to who both of you are going to interact with. And how do I, as somebody that, and a lot of teachers that are going through these issues are older, I mean, by older I mean 30 plus years old,
right.
Because how do I explain to them that? And what I say is, listen, this is hopefully temporary. I mean, yes, there is really no end date for this, or when the next one is going to come, or the next stupid thing that our politicians
Well,
do.
it's definitely for the school year. We could say that.
Yes. So how do I fundamentally change my belief system, and how do I learn to reconnect with those children and those people through different methods? How do I think about how am I going to connect with those students? Maybe it is physically picking up the telephone and calling each student and having a conversation with them offline or online.
Right.
Maybe it's thinking back to what happened. Maybe it's doing drive-bys of like going on getting a bunch of teachers together, because maybe it's best for the teachers to actually do their classes from the school without the students there, because then they are focused, they're engaged, they're in a familiar environment, they're in a supporting environment.
Right. They could also do like a diary between the teacher and the student. Instead of calling, the kids can write it down and they can share stuff, you know. And
there's lots of ways that we can kind of change the way that we communicate it. And there's lots of things that we can do to make up for that.
Right.
So a lot of my friends are like, great, I have to make sure I have really good internet at home. They have to have all of these check marks made to work from home or to teach from home.
Right.
Now, if we take a school that has, let's say Brooklyn Tech, which has around 5,000 population.
Wow. Okay.
At least. And we take the children out of that scenario. We've now reduced the numbers in that building to probably around 1,000.
Okay.
And if we look at the classrooms, they're pretty big. And teachers can social distance, and these are old buildings, so they're definitely well vented. I, as a teacher, would be totally okay with going back to work where the school is going to provide the computer, the school is going to provide the internet, the school is going to provide somebody that's going to deal with all of those pain in the ass problems that I didn't sign up for when I became a teacher.
Right. Make it a little easier.
Make it a little easier. And then I've got all these teachers in the building. How close I get to them, that's my choice.
Right.
That I can work off of, impactful. I can call the teachers in. It's just a lot better of an environment, and it's not keeping people stuck in something that they didn't sign up for. I didn't sign up to work from home, and when you started me working from home, I was okay when it was like 9 to 5.
Right.
But now this pandemic's been going on for 6 months, and most of my friends that are working from home, their bosses have violated that boundary. It's whenever I need you, you call, you answer. I was at a friend's house that's in my social distancing pod, I guess is the way you put it, and it was 11:30 at night, and they got an email from their boss, and she's like, if I don't answer this, he's going to call me. I'm like, it's 11:30 at night. What are you, crazy?
Well, I knew that because I worked from home. It's really hard to define boundaries at home when it comes to work, but you really do need to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we have this change. Maybe we make a decision as a employee of the business that we propose to our boss. Maybe we all don't really work from home. Maybe like Mondays, the first half of the alphabet goes.
Right.
Tuesday,
or,
the other half of the alphabet. Whatever it might be.
The other thing is like you could wherever you're working at, like that becomes your office. Like you get fully dressed with pants and everything. You go into your office, and just like you leave your office, from wherever it is or your schoolroom, that once you leave there, the door's closed. That's it.
And what we're talking about is we need to learn to set these boundaries on the change that was forced upon us,
right,
so that we can survive the change.
Right.
So one of the things that I've done as a tip is I have a desk phone number that I give out to people. And that phone number, in its telephone brain, and there's a bunch of different ones, and they all have different rules and regulations, but they basically say if you're not on this list of numbers, and it's after 6 p.m., even if you're calling me as Hardy Brooklyn and it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm at a party that I'm throwing, you needed to call me during business hours, dude.
Right.
Sorry. Do not even let me know that message. Like, the person can leave me a message,
right,
but wait 15 or 20 minutes before you even send me that acknowledgement of that message.
Okay, but the thing is, like, so your friend, because this goes back to what we were talking about, standing up for yourself at work. Because people are always afraid, like, if I do stand up for myself, I'm going to get fired. Like, they really believe that. So your friend, who's the boss was calling at 11:30 at night, what could she say? In what way could she present it to her boss to say, listen, I have some boundaries. I'm not comfortable working at 11:30 at night. I give you from 8 to 7 every day, and that's it.
So I just closed the window to make it a little quieter. So one of the things that I told her to do is that first of all I told her not to answer the phone when it rang.
Right.
And that it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And the phone rang. She got the email, and the phone rang, and the phone rang, and it hung up. And 2 minutes later the phone rang.
Wow.
And the phone rang.
Wow.
And I said, don't answer it, because it's 11:30 at night. You're sleeping. Why?
Right.
How functional are you going to be? Like, what's the purpose of?
Right.
What is the purpose?
So, can I ask you what she does for a living? What kind of company it is?
She does something, I don't know, office related.
Okay, so it's not the end of the world if it's not answered. It's
right.
Like, it doesn't need to be taken care of. Like, I mean, that's the other thing. You can look at the email and give yourself a priority. Is it really high priority or is it not?
And so what I told her is, you need to think about if you don't respond.
You train that person to stop calling you, yeah.
And it's not necessarily even training the person. It's this person or whoever it is, and this happens to me and I'm really bad at it still, is people reach out to me. And they say, hey Hardy, can you give me this information? And I'm like, all right. And I'll be like out at a concert, or I'll be out and I stupidly answered the phone because I didn't recognize the phone number, or it got past my settings, or they sent me a text that I read and I shouldn't have read because it blew my mood. What I've done is, I kind of say, yeah, but you know what? After that phone gets hung up, I'm like, if nobody's going to die, I'm hopefully going to remember this when I wake up tomorrow. And if I don't remember to do it when I wake up tomorrow,
they'll remind you.
And it's that important.
Right, they'll remind you.
But most of the time what I've learned is all of those, hey, can you send me this information? Do you have this? Do you have that? That I was getting via email, Facebook Messenger, and all of those things that come into our phone. None of those questions needed to be answered. And when I stopped answering them, the questions didn't stop coming.
Right.
And they still haven't actually gone down in number, but I have tons of questions like, oh, what was the name of that venue we went to 2 years ago? Or who was that girl, or who was that guy, or what was this
you
person?
You just don't answer. I know for a fact, because you at a certain, sometimes you don't answer my text messages.
Right.
You just don't answer. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
He doesn't want to answer. That's how I take it.
And I'm like, you know what? And a lot of times I can't focus on the phone, or I don't like, even though I just went away to take my youngest son away to school. And we did a lot of things. We stayed a couple extra days and went to a cabin on the lake, and we had some entertainment. And the thing that I missed when we were doing the different activities was not having my phone as a camera.
Okay.
But I got over that really quick, because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to carry it and all this other stuff. And then when I did an activity, I made a conscious decision not to use my phone, but to actually bring a camera.
Oh, okay.
Because I realized that I was able to be more present.
Right.
So when we're talking about things...
So can I say one thing? How I would, because that being a freelance person, and I was a freelance photographer, a lot of times when I went out, people would ask me too, how much, oh, you're a photographer, what kind of photographer, oh, how much do you charge? And my reply was like, I don't talk business when I'm out socializing.
Right.
You know, so I kind of gave that boundary because I didn't want to talk about business because I'm out socializing, you know, and I didn't want to, you know, because, you know, someone asking you how much you charge for a shoot, it's not like, you know, it's not a simple, it's more questions have to be asked, and it's not a simple answer.
And for a lot of us, we're trained.
And you know what, the truth is, like, the first time I did that, I thought, oh, well, maybe I lost the customer. I'm like, you know, if they really wanted me, then they'll get in touch with me tomorrow.
Right. And for someone that went from a business development and technology consulting firm that was doing 99% of my leads were coming from networking at parties, networking at concerts, I would network with the person to build the rapport. What I did, I never told anybody what I did. And that was partially a mistake that I made, because I should have been clearer to my inner circle of what I did, because they would have potentially been better referrers.
But you didn't talk about business. You just talked about what the kind of business that you were doing and what the services that you offer.
But what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to build a successful business with trusted people as customers. It didn't matter who worked for me. It didn't matter if we were camping for 2 weeks. It didn't matter what we were doing. It allowed me to build a business with people that were trusted. And I started in 1993. And most of the clients that I still have are clients that have not retired, have not sold, or have not moved away strictly for a monetary reason.
Right.
And I'm looking at COVID, and I started this COVID endeavor with a certain amount of clients that were still carried on from the days where I don't necessarily do the same things for them anymore, but I'm still actively involved in their business. And then I looked at post-COVID. And out of my clients, 75% of them will be shutting their doors.
Oh.
So they're forced to take change. And one of the things that I said to one of them is, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to you? Like, if you didn't work another day in your life or make any more money, is anybody going to die? And he looked at me and he said, wow, you have a better life than I do. And I turned around and I said, why can you not accept change? We're asking all of our teachers to change the way their whole world works, including for a lot of places in this country, risk their lives, which is none of the changes we're asking those people to do are good for them, are positive, or they want it, or, I mean, it's all resistant change. So how do we unpack that, and what do we say to ourselves? Like, listen, hey, it is what it is.
Right.
And then how do I work through those emotions and admit to myself and be compassionate with myself that I'm going to have those emotions.
Right.
I'm going to have those feelings. And I need to talk to a therapist, and I need to talk to a licensed professional.
Right.
I can't just listen to a bunch of podcasts.
I mean, I think one of the things you brought up is that you can, try to look at it of a different perspective and make it more fun for yourself and tweak the things that you were doing, like making phone calls with your students, having a diary with your students, maybe you
But now I have to work. Now, like, these people are now being, and I agree with you that life is a project.
Right.
And it's something that you have to work at. And that you have to realize that even though this change is forced upon you, you as an individual,
you
as
could
a
change
human,
the change that you had.
right. You as an individual have to empower yourself
right.
and be compassionate with yourself to basically work with the change to make it be a change that you are okay with.
So it's sort of like it's a negotiation, right? So you got something and you said, okay, I got something forced on me, but you know what? I'm going to negotiate it myself, like deal with it and like get over it, and then I'm going to tweak it for myself.
Right.
To make it fun, to make it different, to just because I have no other choice, so I can sit here and be angry for the next 5-6 years, or or the year, however long it's going to be.
And who am I going to be angry at?
Right.
I can only be angry at myself.
Right. Yes.
For not basically putting my preconceived expectations, my connotations, my construct on things.
Right.
Because the world is completely different. I mean, I thought I was going to be throwing swinger sex parties for the rest of my life, and right now, yeah, I can throw one. But do I want to put people at risk? Do I want to be that guy that's pushing his clients to make money? And for me and my partners, we made a conscious decision that yes, we would love to throw one. And I get probably 15 messages a day now from people, either voicemail, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be, saying, when's your next party? Because they're dying for it. And then I look at the people that are dying for it, and they're the most resistant to the change. And they're not going to social distance. And they're going to put my other patrons at risk.
Right.
So I have to, as who Hardy is, stick my feet in the ground and say, I'm going to do this change, but I'm going to do this change the way that I need to do it,
right.
the way that's going to protect me,
right.
and not only just me, but protect everybody else around me.
Right, and so then you end up, again, we change, friends, people fall away, and then people come to you. Right.
I can definitely see. I mean, I have friends that are not social distancing, that are getting people sick, and I don't know if I'm going to be like, what else are they doing? Is what goes through my mind. Like, they're not just irresponsible about COVID, but what else are they doing in their own personal world that shows that disrespect for every other humanoid, including their parents?
Right.
Like, I mean, I literally had a friend that like went to a party, traveled out of town, went to a party, came home, was not allowed to come to the party, but then went to visit his parents, who proceeded to give his father, an elderly gentleman, COVID, who literally 5 days later was dead. Yeah. And as that, what else is he doing? He's not only not doing that to society.
Right.
And we need to think about it from a human point of view as we are part of a global world.
Right, right. Regardless of what our president says right now.
Right. I mean, I live on a...
It's not a political thing. It's about a human thing, right?
And I mean, I live on a block that has 1 million people, and there are people that like you will go up to and you'll do an elbow bump, and then there are people that I'll go up to and I won't do an elbow bump with because I know they're not social distancing, and if I go like this, it's too close. Right. This is closer than 6 feet.
Right.
And I'm not okay with that.
Right.
And if somebody yells at me or screams at me, what's the first thing that I'm going to do when I get home?
Take
my clothes off,
yes.
and take a shower,
yes.
and do the happy birthday to my head, happy scrubby on my face, and I don't think I've ever washed my glasses with soap and water so many times, because when I go out, I have to, because I don't want to bring that in and bring my change or my lack of okay with change, because I'm disappointed that the world is not the way my mom said it was going to be on everybody else.
So I think the takeaway from, change that's forced on you is that you have to learn, it's tough, but you're going to have to learn to deal with that. But then you can also change your change and tweak it for you and make it interesting for you. And just, you're going to have to go, honestly, just kind of go with the flow. When something's out of your control, there's nothing you can do.
Except you can interact with it and set boundaries to protect yourself.
Exactly.
So now when we have this change, I started telling everybody on the subway not to wear a mask. And the last time I did that was a full car of people. And there was one couple that got on the train that was not wearing a mask. And I went like this, like when he looked at me and I pulled it, I'm like, all right, well, you don't know what the word mask means? And like he was sitting right on front of a mask, no ride. And I took my phone out. And I was like, oh, let me get a picture of this guy. And I hold up the phone and I point it at him. And the little light goes off. the focus light. And this guy lost it. He came over to me. He threatened my life. He threatened to beat the shit out of the guy next to me, the guy that was behind him because he was stood up to defend me. And what did I do? What was my response? I'm like, this guy does not accept change. And he's never going to accept change because whatever his belief system is, it's not being part of a global culture. So I didn't respond to him at all. I got off the train. I didn't touch anything. I got home. I elbowed the doorbell, and I went straight in the bathroom. I took my clothes off. I put them in the laundry basket, and I went and I showered. And I washed my hair, and I did the happy birthday, and then I washed my glasses, and then I brushed my teeth, and I prayed for the best. But I made a decision that, at that point, why would I risk my life to help somebody else accept change that they're not, when I can just modify my boundaries and my behavior to make the change go the way that I want it to go. Stop hanging out with the people that I don't need to hang out with them. And I've got the best excuse in the world, COVID. Or I'm living with a high-risk person. Or there's a high-risk person in my building. It doesn't matter what it is. COVID is the out excuse right now, and everybody's using it. So you need to, when change happens to you that you're not okay with, you need to embrace it. But you need to embrace it in a way that you're using your boundaries, where you're the one that's in control, and you're not relying on other people to tell you how you're supposed to feel.
Very good, very good. So we want to thank you for watching. I'm Michelle Wild.
And I'm Hardy Brooklyn. This is the Free and Open Mind Vcast, now supported to you by Flow Juggle and ROI Resumes, where you'll get their URLs in the show notes.
So who are you and what is your passion?
Thank you very much.